Howdys and salutations, y'all. Sorry about the wait. Let's see. Couple things. Swordtember is, to no surprise, really proving exhausting to keep up with. So we'll see how long we can go at it. But at the very least, I'd like to keep it up through streams, even if I'm not able to do the other days. Unless, of course, people are just stinking bored of it. But I don't know. I've been enjoying these. I think it's been good for practicing that creativity muscle, which is one I've always felt I was weaker on. But first off, before we jump into what we're doing today, I just wanted to say, check out how awesome this turned out. I know we spent a lot of extra time on it yesterday, Tuesday, but I gotta say, I think it was worth it. This, I'm so happy with this one. It looks so cool. Um, and I hope we can get that level of cleanness with today's. We'll see, we'll see. Definitely didn't manage it with yesterday's. Wednesday, I have to have a rest day once in a while. I'm going to lose my mind. Much as I enjoy the art, I still have the full-time job and all the other responsibilities that come along with that, and being a person. So I had to do just a quick doodle and then have some downtime. Not for want of trying, but I couldn't get the ideas to meld. So I hope y'all don't mind. But I've done a little bit of prep today. I went ahead and picked a color palette. I went ahead and did a little bit of designing, and I think we've got a line work outline going. Apologies for the truly eye-harming colors. They're so much more vivid than I expected them to be. It was not as I had anticipated. So, let's see. I think this one, it makes sense. Today's prompt, I should clarify, is one that's going to be a challenge, because the prompt is veined, and there's a lot of terrible directions to go with that I'd rather not go. So instead, I was thinking we've got a vein of ore, and then also some crystals on it for good measure, because that's fun. So, to that end, let's see. I think we've got pure ref showing, have we? Can y'all see it? Where did pure ref go? Oh, right. Give me a second. I need to update the pure ref to the new one. Yeah, there we go. So I've got some crystal patterns here for when we get to that phase. We won't mess with that just yet, of course. We'll just kind of keep those there for now. Put those out of the way. Let's see, I need to go ahead and close my... Whoops, didn't mean to close that one. Sorry about that. Gotta get chat back open. Can't miss out on anyone being here. But, yeah. We'll do this, and we'll keep going. So first off, I know I said I did the line work and I had it finished, but I still am, torn between ideas. One of them being this color isn't going to be tenable. This vibrant blue, it's more vibrant than it looked in the palette. I double-checked the hex code and everything. It's the same one, but it is so potent. Looking at the purple, I think might be a better choice for the blade. And honestly, this might be a better choice for line. It's a lot less clean, but I kind of like the stone broken look to it. Might be, I don't know, might be worth pursuing on this one, actually. Yeah, it's less of a clean line, but also it's got a little more character to it. So let's think on that. Because the main thing I want to do today, I don't want to worry too much about line work. I definitely don't want to worry about test flat colors. But what I want to focus on is doing some fun stuff with texture and designs on it, because that's the emphasis of the prompt anyway. So, that's where we ought to be putting our time, really and truly. And given how much the last one ran over and put me behind on sleep, to my regret, on Wednesday, I'm trying not to repeat that little snafu. So, still torn between Lineworks V1 and V2. I'm sure overlaying them isn't gonna sell me more on one or the other. I'm torn, I really am. I'm not sure we can pull off a good rock texture, but I feel like it'd be better to have a go at it and fail, and learn something. let's not worry too much about like internet SEO and making sure it's like the perfect thing to attract Swordtember and everything. Yeah, I overthink that stuff. I think most people do. So yeah, let's go in here, assuming that we're gonna have this purple, and then that means that we could theoretically go with this for. Actually, hold on. First off, let me just store a color because I have a sneaking suspicion this will go south. Because we could try using our deep blue as the background again, but that is so vivid that it makes my eyes like want to escape my face. And maybe once we have the sword in there, it will be better. Yeah, I mean it's stinking bright on the stream, and it's even brighter on my screen here. Ay ay ay. So, methinks we will not be doing our sketching with this background. Let's go back to our awkward sort of teal, green, gray, slate-ish one and build from there. Yeah, we'll see on this color scheme. I looked through a bunch and I don't want to waste more time digging through them. But like, when it comes to color schemes, options are so complicated. Okay, did we go for the light for the pick head and then the sort of darker for the... Okay, that's what we did on this one. Interesting. For starters, I want to use some intentional pencil work in this one. Because I think we want... Like, I like the clean outline edge. But I also want to make sure... Like, man, there's so much to clean up on the line work when it's like this. Which is fine. It's fine. We can work with that. I just want to make sure that the edge isn't too distracting. No, that's fine. Part of it is that I'm not 100% sold, truthfully, on the like this purple either. So we'll see how this goes. Wait, no. Oh, actually, interesting. I will never understand how it decides what lines it can connect and which ones it just can't. Fascinates me. Yeah, the rounded tip there is a little better. Okay, we'll keep going. Try to. Whoop, nope, not that line. This one. See if we can't repair some of the curvature on that a little bit, make it more believable. There we go, smoothing the arc a little bit, and we'll try to make this one match. Now let's see. Yeah, rough. I know rough news today. A whole bunch of stuff going on. Some good, some bad. I ain't gonna comment on it because this ain't a news place. But the one thing I will say is sorry to hear about the Queen. So anyone out there in the well, I know reactions were mixed, but for the people who are mourning, I do hope things like go smoothly. I'm sorry for the loss. But yep. I think more than anything for people, it's just that it's been like the end of an era. And she's been queen for what, 70 years? Like, that is no small feat. Let's clean some of this up a little bit. There we go. I think that adds a little interesting grip section to it. I like the idea of having a big old stone slab for the blade, and then just using a pickaxe as the handle. Like you just like punched your pick like head first into the wall, and then pulled out the sword. No situation on Earth or most fantasy where that would ever work. but it's a fun thought. Yep, that was the 3 width on that, which was probably a mistake. I should have gone 4, but you know, whatever. And we'll get to this part in a second, because that's where a lot of the interesting happens. And I do want this to be, like, polished. Which, now that I think about it, means this don't make no sense. Maybe I can just redraw the line. So let's think about where we need this to go. If we're talking physics, it should be an edge here. And maybe like an up. Like this should, but then it doesn't line up with the other side. So really this needs to go here. Then, no. Straight edge. And then kind of a rugged, that's fine. That implies some interesting things about the shape of it. Maybe the secret is that these shouldn't be the same line. Oh, we've got that one. That goes to that edge. And we've got ourselves a wee bit of a conundrum, really. Sorry about that noise. Let's see. Maybe the secret is that this... Wow. That was supposed to be a straight line. What on earth happened to it? It does not need that. Holy cow. Let's clear some of that mess up right the heck now. Even once more, maybe. Oh, good. Well, it's just all in the wrong place now, so whatever. We'll just go across the whole darn thing. That's easier anyway. There we go. Straight line, basically. Except for one tiny point that we will fix. This, where the heck does this need to go? Assuming that the block sort of, okay, I've got a solution. A little silly, but it'll work. This continues up, and then this kind of goes over and at it. There, now it makes sense that this is sort of wedged into it. Alignment looks decent for the other side. It resolves some of the weird stuff, and the fact that our horizon line is basically here. Which it shouldn't be. If anything, this ought to do something like that, maybe. That's maybe... Okay. That was what was wrong. I was tilting it the wrong way. Okay. Cool. We learn a little bit more about that every time we do it. Simplifying some vector lines over here. Because some of these, they look too smooth, really. That's the problem. Maybe I need to make this more jagged. But I've been trying to look at, like, the edges of geodes aren't super jagged or smooth either. That's sort of the issue here. And it's like, maybe what we need to be doing is something like more like really rough like that, maybe. And then we could even do like, oops, nope. Do like a sort of simplified. I think that lets us get some interesting detailed textures going on here. Which could do fun stuff with shadows, maybe. Okay, yeah, we'll do that for stylizing it. Because I think the super smooth rounded, whoops. You know what, before I commit to that, I'll do a little section of it like this. We'll do a section so we have it for reference. There we go. That's sort of... We'll just get this to the end, methinks. some interesting ruggedness going on here. Yeah, it looks like a really bad Blender geometry mesh, but that's fine. And I'm sure if I attempted to use the connect tool on all of these, it would cause havoc. Well, some havoc. Okay, a notable amount of havoc. Not quite as bad as I'd anticipated, to be fair. And did get us some slightly sharper lines, but I think we'll just stick to erasing any oddball lines as we go forward. Okay, so that'll give us an interesting shading challenge later, which I look forward to. That does grip it better on, though. But yeah, we'll see if we do that, or if we stick with smooth. I'll do one side each way for comparison. Or actually, yeah, let's just have a hard stop right here. That's fine. Okay, because there's two main focal points that I actually want to focus on today, and I guess I really want to do this. Do we want this to be vector? Don't think so. I think this is going to be a raster layer. Let's get some of the actual ore going in here. I'm going to grab our middle gold tone. I realize these are kind of pastel-y, but like it should still translate. I think. I mean, we'll see. The color palette's really designed so the orange is like a light accent, and this is the deep shadow, and this is the highlights. For a more like it's not a monochrome palette, but you know that sort of deal. So we'll see. We will just see. Oops, let me. Nope, that's not where I want to put that. Sorry, I seem to have messed up my stream layout. Give me just a half a second, if you'd be so kind. Let's see, is this what I wanted to do? Let's see. Nope, that definitely isn't what we wanted to do. Hey, no. My stream layout's escaping. Gonna get on the whole main stream and everything. Can't have that. So, we will put some of this stuff away. Keep chat visible, of course. And go from there. Right, back at it. Let's actually get some of these ore veins going. Now, I'm trying to decide if I want to do pencil or if we even want to find like a plainish brush for this. Not so thick, maybe. Because that gets some interesting stuff. Not really, like that. Not that particular one, maybe. Oh, that's interesting. If we had like a smaller, more potent one. And a brush pen. Brush pen maybe softer. I don't know. I just want to mess with some of these and see what we get before I commit to anything. Pointillism would be pointillism maybe a tad smaller, but that's a fun one. Rough wash. That's actually that's not bad. This might be closer to what we were looking for. Boy, need to be careful with this one. It lags on scale. Okay, I think I want this one for the accent for it. So that's watercolor splash. And y'all may remember this one from the Crystallians. Nope, too much texture of a canvas. Same issue. There's just one underlying texture there, you can tell. Similar dealio. Although, on a smaller scale, that could. I like the little faint glow that we get with it. But I don't know that it's quite raggedy enough. Good old Jevil. Heck of a boss fight, Jevil, I will say. Okay, maybe we could look at this one. Of course, for real color, we're gonna have to color the actual blade in, so we'll want to do that at some point. But first off, let's try getting a few veins in here based on. I've done some in my like a sketchbook just so I've got some stuff to work off of. Let's see if we can't, sort of pick some of this up. And of course, it's going to continue down the edge. And then some overlap is actually kind of the goal. Definitely not there. Very clear. Make it look like we got some different layers going on, because we do, technically. But they shouldn't just be side by side. We're playing this, and then we had our watercolor splash that we wanted for just like, and I think the watercolor splash we may actually want to do with like the lighter tone, really get some like actual gold flecks in there. Make it look a little more okay. So we may need some of the underlying color to judge how good that ends up looking. Because right now maybe it's a little fuzzy. So we were looking at the oh, what was the other one? Was the soft bleed? No, it was the wet wash. No, it was the watery brush? No. Rough wash. Yes. Maybe more sizable. Let me look at some of the settings options we have for rough wash. Okay, it's on multiply. We could just set it to normal and see what that gets us. Yeah, we lose some of the although actually we get some interesting variants going at it like this. That's actually pretty cool. That's actually not a bad rock texture if we were going to do, say, some of the purple in that. Let me try a larger brush size and our other color for a second. I mean, it does look a little like a texture brush and not necessarily like rock, but it's not bad. And especially if we went in with, another one and sort of jimmied up the colors a little bit. Is that a word anyone uses? Is that even a thing? I'm not sure I've ever heard that before. Oh, we've got texture options. Of course, I think for the most part that's not what we want. Well, okay, so we were on Impasto, right? I want to make sure we can get back to that. Okay. Let's try marble. With the purple. Honestly, we barely even need the fancy brush for it if we've got that texture going on under it. This helps add sort of some, like, veins? Not, well, I guess that would be fitting. Or mineral patterns, we could do some creative stuff with that. Okay. Like I said, texture is what I'm really here to sort of work with on this one. So maybe. I'm trying to think how well well, I don't think either of the borders is going to do amazing with sort of the styles we're going for. So I don't want it to be jarring. You don't want like very clean borders and then like the like textures that don't match. So I'm kind of inclined. Oh, it's the one that I always think is the other forest, but it's not. Okay. I'm kind of inclined to get a different background. Because all of these show the background through pretty heavily, and that's going to end up, because I don't want this to be our final background color, and so I don't want to change the color at the last moment and then have it do like a major switcheroo on the quality of the drawing. So let's see what we can do. We get one of like this, but like maybe like way less brightness. I think that's brightness. I mean, it's still pretty vivid. But I think it sort of works. I have to fight a little more to make the gold show, but that's okay. I do think our gold vein here is looking pretty good. I'm not sure about this entirely for our textures. mainly because I think the issue is more that the brush is too big. If we had the patience and time to really go at it with oh well, right color for starters, like a smallish brush, and like really sort of dapple it properly, that would be something. Yeah, I am also a fan of just the wet wash, but it's not really what we need here. Although maybe wet wash is 100% opacity, isn't it? Maybe that's what we needed, was just the wet wash underneath it. Sort of bind it all together. Or over top it. We could wet wash over top. Of course, we'd have to get it all in one go pretty much, because otherwise you get that from the wet wash where the colors layer on each other, even though it's, you know, it's still multiply even if it's opacity. Yeah, if I were to just... Okay, so too big a wet wash loses detail, methinks. Doing it like this, we maintain a lot of our textures. Well, assuming we've got the textures denser and in blue. Let's think. Really, I'm just trying to think on this one. I'm not sure the right answer here. We'll just have to toy with it a little bit. Oh, we can get the other textures with this one too. I wonder if we get the impasto on this, what it ends up doing. Still not that. Let's see. I love that the more you go over an area, the more it like clarifies the other stuff that's below it. Like you're literally pushing some of the paint out of the way. Cool brush, it really is. But not our brush for this. It's one of my favorite brushes. Although I think this one's also a really good one. Wet blotting ink is fun for its own thing, but again, not really here so much. You know, if this sword doesn't get finished, but we learn more about the brushes we have and how to use them, that's still a victory at the end of the day. So we'll see. We'll see if that's what happens. After all, this is a learning stream. You're learning with me. I'm learning too. So yeah. I guess we could just do a big quartz crystal instead of the stone and be done with it, but I don't really want to do that. That's it. I do, now that we have a different background, the sort of dark blue for the actual like stone is back to being an option, with purple as sort of the highlight, and I'm kind of liking that. This blue pops the other colors real well too, so it's not going to be an issue there. If I were to do... Interesting. Just trying to see if we have an... Let me jump on this. What if we made our opacity less? Or our opacity high, but our density a little less? And then say, used it for this piece instead. Not really sure that works. Intriguing, don't get me wrong. Okay, I like the gold flecks with this. We need to figure out a good stone option. I don't think... I mean, this is okay, and if we go too much longer without coming up with anything better, then I'll just concede and say, yeah, okay, we'll do that one. I'm not too worried about the handle, honestly. I think it'll be okay. Some of these are set to massive, and I'm sure that's my own fault. But, like, Ooh. Watery brush. Oh yeah, that's just a nice blending option. That's not bad, really. I wonder if I take the rough wash. What other options have we got with this? Texture marble. I know it was impasto before. Do this and see what nonsense we're. I know that's labeled wood, but it actually kind of looks like a smooth hewn stone. Oh, I'm kind of all over that, and it means that the texture would work. Like even if we had different like veins of this rock, we still have the texture sort of overlapping the whole thing. Okay, I'm kind of sold on that texture. I'll be honest. Gold, we want to go back to impasto. I think that's a good one for that. Okay. This is really texture testing at this point, isn't it? We've had a lot of testing. We'll close that. We'll dump this back into testing too. Thinking about our line work. Not happy with either of our options right now. So what I'm inclined to do is do a big old swath of this over everything and then go from there. Yeah, we're getting a little too... There's something to be said about like kind of the consistent texture direction across the whole thing that we had with this. Let's maybe keep up with that. Get some interesting stuff from... And I'm sure anyone who likes coloring inside of the lines is positively mortified by what's happening right now. I speak as one of these people, but I think it's worth doing. I think there's some interesting stuff in this, if I'm remembering my geology classes right. Now, inclination real quick, one more brush. Watery brush, big watery brush. Just kind of soften all this up. Give everything a little bit more muting. Whoops, nope. Or at least some sections. Okay, maybe the secret here. Let's try this. Let's go back to our... Let's see, we were using rough wash. No, the texture's still too prevalent, really. I'm quite confident I can't fill with a rough wash, but what I can do is just go over it like that. We could even go over it another time if we really wanted. There we go. We're still getting some natural textures. Okay. I think that'll work. Let me grab our watercolor splash, zoom it up a bit, grab our purple highlight here. If we'll see if this ends up working the way we want it to. I do think, let's go into the actual brush settings, maybe chill on the opacity and the particle size a little bit, up the density. No. Back to higher opacity, higher particle size. That looks too much paintbrushy. Trying to get like a little bit of a marbled effect on this. Which that's not bad, although again, at larger in the thumbnail you can totally see. Okay. That's not terrible. I'm gonna leave that for now. Oh crud, did I do all of that on the line work layer? Aw, man. thought it was looking so good too. Oh well. Blade. Looks like we're doing it again. But first we have to undo everything we. Oh, tag nab it. Texture testing. Right, we were putting this one away. Then we're creating a new. Not in there. That may be where I went wrong. Blade texture. Step 1, rough wash, large size dark blue. Not too heavy-handed. Just getting like a little bit of texture in there. Little variance, that's fine. Next up, watercolor splash, the purple on there. I think we've still got the opacity sizes right. Get ourselves like a little bit of marbling. I kind of vary my direction just to try to mix up how it's getting on there. Okay. Now I'm going to put that away for now. And let's work on our actual blade outline. And I'm trying to save the last hour for the crystals. We'll see if we get there. Oh, and the ore veins. Oh, rats. Okay. I'm glad I did some prep work in advance. Let's do this. I am going to, on the line work, going to clear this all out. And we're going to do like a smaller, rougher texture. Nothing crazy, just clearly rugged, still basically following the shape of the blade. I mean, the subtle is better, but I think that might be too jagged. Oh, and all those little ones where I accidentally let go. And see, I double back on myself when I'm trying to do this, and that's not really what we want. Let me look at my references and see what we're getting. Zooming in on this, specifically this lower one here, because it's got ourselves. Honestly, it's. I guess it's got a little bit of jagged, but it's not anything crazy. More like just a little bit of roughness. Occasionally comes in out to a point. Not sure if that's going to look better on the full blade or not. Really, it probably just needs my normal. Maybe that's it. Maybe the secret is just to get my normal hands, like, lack of line confidence. Turn our stabilization way down. And just draw slow. The one time I don't want to draw a straight line, I'm getting one. Really? That's how it goes, I suppose. If anyone has any thoughts, by the way, I am all ears, of course. More than happy to take feedback from people, even later if you want to throw it on YouTube. If you're in the VOD, we can always learn. I'm going to turn off anti-aliasing, but that's the wrong kind of texture. Wrong anti-aliasing. Don't need that right now. Blending mode, yeah, normal. Let's see. I think the ore veins are going to be easy to do since we've got our two brushes picked out, and that's going to be that. I want to get the texture for this. I'm not that worried about the hilt. It's not the draw of the eye. At least it won't be once we get the rest of the colors in. I'll do something simple. Probably the same texture we do for the stone, I'll do for the pick head and for the little metal bands around it. And then we'll just, if we fill in the wood, we fill in the wood. That's fine, whatever. That's easy enough. let me write down what we figured out for the gold veins because I don't want to forget that. We were doing the rough wash at the mid color, and then we were doing the watercolor at the light color. And let's see, and then the wash texture was, I don't know, but it started with an I and there was only one that did, so that's fine. Impasto, that was it. Thank you. Okay. Then let's take a quick pause. I'm going to try to think through a little bit. I also really need to use the restroom, so I'm going to use this as an excuse for that because I can't think if I need to do that. And we'll see what we can figure out in terms of our blade texture. Because we got a few options, and I just need to sort of let them meld in the head for a second. So I will put us on pause real quick, and we will be back in just a couple minutes. See y'all then. Howdys and salutations, y'all. Sorry about that. I was muted, as it turns out. Forgot that button was even on the headset. Thank you for waiting. Yes, whilst we were on pause, I looked up a reference for some stone edges. And they're not perfect references, mind, but it'll do for our needs. Especially because I just remembered another thing I really ought to do. Or that I'm planning to do in terms of our coloring and such. So, keeping in mind that I don't know that we'll actually have visible line work, at least for the blade, on this finished piece. Y'all know me, when I do a finished piece, I like to do my edges with shadows, not lines. Hey, I keep saying, guess it's one of those days. Let me take a sip of water and reset my brain a little bit. There we go, there we go. Well, now let's just see. I think that the one that we're going to want to do is probably closer to this, but I'm going to simplify a tad. So, last time I attempted to use the pencil and fill tool, not necessarily last time on stream, but yesterday, and it did not go great. Bad mix. Not a huge surprise, but I was hoping that with vector lines it wouldn't be as much of an issue. It still very much was. Wondering, can I get like just a really fine point chalk, and then if I say made a box out of this and filled it, would it immediately explode? Making suspicion the answer is yes. We're gonna try it anyway. That's not terrible. It might be a hair more terrible if we're simulating an edge here, or to then fill with our darker color, and yes. Not ideal. Even if we were to somehow... Okay, Ben, you gonna let me click or not? There we go. There we go. We were to pop that on a layer behind it. Still jarring, you've still got the background between it. Not, okay. Nope. I think chalk and anything we can sort of see through. So we'll just have to do, I'm gonna do a finer point line for our line work. We are gonna use the purple. Oh yeah, that'll pop. Okay. In fact, how much of a difference between these two is there? Is there enough? That, let's go with that. I'm kind of inclined to make our blade this color even. Give us some interesting shading options, but so well what we have. Okay, maybe not. We'll use it for the crystals. It'll all work out. But what I'm basically wanting to do is just something smaller. Smaller deviations. Millipen, no stabilization, small line. Just kind of rough hewn. Not trying to do anything crazy. Occasionally it does, though. Little odds and ends, you know, the way the rock does. But not quite like that, though. Back to our pen, cut off, remove. There we go. Back to our pen, I believe I said. Me. Okay, so it's just going to take a minute. That's getting us a better sort of marbly texture that's not so jarring. Don't have that weird gap in the middle. We can just sort of pull all of this into place more easily, I suspect, if we just lasso the heck out of it. Assuming that I can hold the lasso pen down long enough to actually get all the way around it, which apparently I couldn't. There we go. This one, and boom. Okay. I'm okay with the end being a little smoother. I kind of like the idea that that part was chiseled. And so we'll continue with that sort of trend, that we've got some that's proper chiseled, some that's like a little off. Anything around this, though, definitely needs to get back to our real rough-hewn look that we're sort of doing. So we can kind of keep some of the smoothness. We're gonna go back to our real, just rough around the edges. That bit. And then we'll go back to some real rough down here, too. Actually, I think I'm going to remove the top one so I can use the bottom one as a guideline, because I do like some of the larger variations we've got in that. I'll try to follow those to an extent. Trying to just show, I'm sort of basing this on a granite-y type, which I shouldn't, because the rest of this design is more slate-based, but it's fine. Well, this is a charming song, and I bet it'd be even more charming. Oh, it's this one. If I had all the time in the world, I'd go in and do proper shading based on these textures and stuff. But tragically, I do not, in fact, have all the time in the world. We're limited rather harshly, in fact. And I do want these to be basically straight. Like well cut, well hewn. Maybe like a little bit of warping around the edges, just from wear and tear, of course. But like nothing crazy. Let's see. I will need to make sure everything's on the same line weight, though, for that, and since it's not border, it probably shouldn't be. Okay, this texture is fun for a more abstract, like if I was just doing flat colors on this, which a smart person would so they'd finish on time, I'd absolutely have kept that one going. It's a good style. It's not bad for maps, either, if you're trying to do like mountainsides and need to simulate some stuff there. Not a bad option. There we go. They don't always have to be in parallel either. Make sure the motions will generally be aligned, but not one-to-one. Yeah, we're gonna say goodbye to this bit. We'll probably go with the clean hewn at the bottom too, because it's like cut to fit on the blade. Or the hilt rather, which is just a giant pickaxe. Or probably a normal sized pickaxe if we're being truthful. Not that exciting of a pickaxe. That's okay. I don't want the variants to be highlighted too much, so I'll just make a fairly smooth return. There we go. Now it looks like this proper wraps around, which is good. See, now instead of just looking like this was cut like this with a parallel curve out of it, and you're like, oh, obvious cylinder. Very symmetrical, very human-made. We can make it look a little more natural by varying these up a little bit, because now with the way this is, where we've sort of got the top one doing this, and the bottom one going like this, you're like, oh, there's sort of like, maybe there's more of a curve on that. You're like, oh, maybe there's some interesting like diagonals and stuff going on in there. Or maybe, okay, if I can get my lines. Like you get some variance in angles and stuff. It makes things more interesting when you're trying to, and not that it's easy for people to simulate randomness, but just not making it symmetrical when it shouldn't be goes a long way. And I think if we're getting our natural design, maybe if we do put a gap here, we won't make it as severe. There we go. That's looking like a much better outline than either of the ones we've done before. I'll redo the inner line work, of course. That's fine. In fact, I don't even think we necessarily need anything crazy bringing it up in here. I may continue it as it was, which was, as I recall, a 2-point lilac line. Or lavender. Feel free to get mad at me in the comments if I'm mixing up lilac and lavender. Right, it was 1 pixel. Ay. Weird choice, weird choice. Never meant to be a final line, but what can you do? Redraw the whole thing, or cheat and just connect the lines. Okay. So what we have there is an actual outline to an extent. And then, I suppose, I ought to do... Okay, I'm going to do a separate line work layer for the crystals. And we're going to do base color of this pink. We'll have some shading options for it, don't you worry. So we've got our pickaxe angle there. And I actually want to reveal, not at full brightness, line work 2, low opacity, because this sort of vague bump out is actually an important thing that I want to keep, and I want to make sure I don't lose it, because you can see, even with the crystal structures and all their chaos, they're still roughly following the underall curvature, and like they do still build up on the surface a little bit. So I want to make sure that we're getting that sort of initial layer down there too. Just going to do a real quick and easy spiky one because I'm not too worried about it. But not on this layer. On my crystal line work layer, we can make this one like a little sharper too. Just a little bit of randomness to how we're doing it, and that's fine. Hey, this one's complicated. Really, I think I ought to just do the same thing down here again. Really ought to remember to do the sharpness not halfway through. Not that these lower crystals, like, they're not generally as sharp as, like, the hard edges of the upper ones. If you look at the quartz example I'm looking at, like, this is different for every different type of crystal, of course. And even then, we're only going for, like, a fantasy facsimile, but on a sword, it's kind of fun to amp up the harshness of it a little bit. Okay, let's see. We can sort of imply an edge here, but it's really going to round over more than anything else. Okay. So what the crystals are going to do is they're going to ignore the form of everything else because they're doing their own thing, happily grown away. We're doing quartz, which is going to be mostly hexagons. I mean, quartz comes in a billion different flavors. But the sort of fun hexagon pattern is A, fairly distinctive. You've probably seen it everywhere. And B, it's fun to draw. I don't want 1 line width. Give me at least 2. And we can do some sort of exaggerated versions, too. I suppose if we're doing line work of it, I really ought to actually try to keep my lines fairly clean on this. What I ought to have done, and this would have been good practice and is something I should remember for the future, is I ought to have created a special brush for this, just like a crystal brush. And then I wouldn't have had to worry about any of this. I could just run the brush over it, and if I didn't like it, run the brush over it again. Boom, insta-crisp. Hey, let's just clear out everything on the inside, really, and then we'll restart. Guess I don't really need the line work 2 showing anymore. Or even... Wait. What are these black lines on? Oh, it's on the sketch layer. Okay, we can leave that one on for the time being. But it is sort of good to get an idea of our sword's form without it. Interesting. Aye, nope, that's for later. And we'll see, it might be a little much. Crystal line work, yes, but I wanted to throw sketch back on first. Okay. We're at 9:03 already. Okay, come on. Let's get some of our crystal shapes going in here. These may be too bold. I may need to, like, I know we've got there's plenty of formations where it really does look like that. But let's try toning it down a notch. Because straight line, wrong direction. It's going to take like a week to draw all these out. Even if they're broken. Which, by the way, for hexagons, these are sure looking like not hexagons or octagons, or they just look like they're square when I'm drawing them. You know, I'm going to take a half a second and Google something real quick, just to see if it would be time saving or time killing. And by Google, I mean Firefox, of course. Let's see, I'm just gonna glance through. Would it be faster to just make a brush? Let's see, register it as material. Change the name. That's if you're using for brush tip. Okay. You know what? I think we're probably safe sharing this. Whomever's site this is, I'm not taking the course. Sorry. Let's just glance through some notes real quick right this moment. I have how to copy a brush. Oh yes, lots of good guides, I'm sure, or not. I have no idea. Hopefully. Okay, this is how you get like a simple brush tip. I think that's not what we need. I want a pattern brush, really. Yeah, in case anyone was wondering, we do use Clip Studio Paint. That's why it says CSP up here. Decoration brush. Okay, I guess that's probably what we need. Setting up the canvas, the right size. Oh, good, auf Deutsch. Das macht viel Spaß. Wir können auf Deutsch lesen. Ganz okay, ne, super. So, das ist gut, das ist gut. Verstehen die Teilungen, das ist nicht Layers. Ich weiß das Wort nicht. Es tut mir leid. Okay, perhaps back to English with me then. Okay, so you create your pattern. Let's see. Oh, that's intriguing. Now about in material register and build monochromatic pattern. Okay, so you can create a nice repeating pattern. But I know I've seen somewhere they've got it where it's like a few different randomized options pulling in there. Like a set of books or skulls or what have you. Let's see. Oh, wait, perhaps this is it. Delete the old brush tip. Add brush tip shape. No finish. Hey, okay. So I guess that's how you use it as a spray. Maybe that's what we're looking for. Spray brush. They've got their own cool art, which is very cool, yes. You know, that does look easy, but I think it's still going to be slower our first time than just drawing some of these out by hand. So I think maybe let's man, in Blender I could do this so easily. Of course, there's a million other things I couldn't, so, you know, downsides. One sort of embedded in the surface. We could also go for the handful of really big crystals, and then a whole bunch of, like, the littler ones are just sort of hinted at by shadows and such, which may be a better approach. Like we could have a few distinctive outline ones. Stuff like this. Build from there. We can do a few clusters basically, and then just sort of shade in the rest, perhaps, as implying smaller ones. Let's see. We can also do a bunch there's just like the tip of it, a little edge poking out. Nice, shading these is going to be a right nightmare too, ain't it? You can, you know what? Let's start with our border here. Sizing a few spikes and such. A little bit of an outcropping there. We've got that. I feel like it's not going to care much about the bar. Not really. Guess it could have had some impact on the crystal growth. I suppose to the extent that it cuts into the bar, it's going to have to be a thing. Okay, that's fine. At least slightly less dense crystal field. Because the crystals aren't even like the essential part of the image, they're just, you know, the fun part. There's other fun parts. This is going to be a fun one once it's done. But the downside of that is, of course, that I now intend fully to finish it today, which is bad. Okay. So looking at that, it does look like we've got ourselves a nice little crystal band. So before we figure out how we're doing the rest of the crystals, because even like some of this at a distance is actually looking okay, let's do some texture stuff real quick. So let's get our flats. And for once, that word actually means what it should, because we're going to put other layered textures on top of it in at least a few places. Let's see. Oh, I guess we ought to put sketch away at this point. And I'll go ahead and lower opacity so we can see what we're doing with this. But, oh boy. I think I need to adjust my settings a little bit. How's our close gap? Not too aggressive, me hopes. There's a line in here I forgot to erase somewhere. No point in having that one. This on the line work layer? Oh, no, it's just the leftover from, when I accidentally left that other layer in there. Oh, goodness me. Just gonna have to get a brush and go over that, I think. Yeah, that's fine. Anything like that over here? Nope. Okay. Do a little bit of cleanup around our edges. I'll use just a hint of this one, nothing crazy on it. Those the flats ought to be under the line work, really. And we'll go back to our normal one. Even if the color scheme isn't perfectly adapted to what we're drawing, I'm still much happier using it, because otherwise we'd have spent the first hour of this stream just figuring that part out. Let me tell you, as much as I'd be down with that, I don't think anyone else would be. I did discover CSP has a strong community of people who make color, like just color palettes and stuff, so I may have to check some of that stuff out a little more. Just cleaning up some of our edges. Ooh, good close gap. Better close gap over here, though. Yeesh. Okay. So this is where the fun begins. I say as I just draw a little tiny spot. Yay. We're going to do some texturing on top of this, mind. These ain't final, but this is going to get us our basic shadows and such, which actually, come to think of it, ought to have that. There we go. I mean, that already is looking, I mean, bold and vibrant to be sure, but also like a little cleaner, a little better refined. Let's oops. Of course, at max opacity, looks like a neon neon circus. So we'll see if we keep it at max opacity or not by the end of this. Hopefully the other layers on top will help temper it a little. But we'll see, you know, we'll see. This one's got the pain of the line work being the same color as the flats. A mistake, to be sure. An oft-repeated one by me, so it's fine. I guess we're just using the same sort of orangey red there. Don't know what happened with this. Don't know why it... I appreciate that it didn't escape and cover the whole campus. Campus? Canvas. We're going to school, y'all! But no, that could have been worse. Okay. And then... we'll do any shading and stuff later. I don't want to do anything crazy on it. Pickaxe head I probably won't do too much, though. Okay, so there we are. Let me fix whatever the heck's happening with this. Guess the line work's probably having an impact. That's fine. That's why we look at it like this and we do a little cleanup. Of course, these nice smooth layers vanish if we take the line work away. Not the worst, but like actually no, it's not the worst. Lost some detail with that though, so we'll want to be careful if we do that. And we'll want to close up any gaps, of course. But as it is, honestly not bad. Keeping line work for the crystals would be an interesting way to draw attention to them, I will say. Now, we've done our texture testing. If I were to, say, make that visible, and then clip it to the layer below, how we doing? Maybe if I use the correct layer, put away our test layers in the test folder where they belong, and put the blade texture on it, that might be better. The purple blends in with the purple. Of course, reducing opacity reduces it for all of it, because it's mapped. Okay. Interesting. Blade texture is normal, not multiply. I mean, that looks terrible, frankly. The slate pattern's not bad. Maybe, okay, maybe with this we really do just want the slate, and then we get the gold line work on there. Unclipping this. Hiding the flats, we can see. I'm not sure what we can see. I feel like some bad ideas were had somewhere in this process. Oh, we'll dump that in testing and we'll keep going. That's fine. Honestly, even just the crystal band, if I get it like this and get some good shading on there, with just a few more outcropping crystals, would probably be good. Don't need to do anything crazy on there, and it's actually looking decent, which makes me happy. Okay, so flats, part 1. Pickaxe. Woodwork. Okay. Let's see. What if we did this at just like 90%? Line work is still visible. It's a little more muted, which I think is probably good for what we're doing. We still get some of our textures in here. I think that's probably better. Pickaxe. Highlight. Is there... I know we do multiply a lot. I'm curious if divide is going to work the way I think it is. Yep, but we're going to need something a lot more muted than that. Alright, we'll grab the color. We'll crack open the actual color wheel. And we're gonna mute the heck out of it. And then we're not going to color pick away from it immediately. This... What? Do I need to clip it to the layer? Nope, I mean, it's doing that regardless. Is divide just a really... Oh, okay. I guess I just need to make it super light. Honestly, we could probably just do... Okay, not quite that light. Okie dokie. Then let's grab our Millipen and just do this roughly. I don't want to use the select tool on this. We ain't really got the time. Try to follow the wood lines a little bit, but I'm not going to do anything crazy on it. Honestly, probably don't even need to follow the wood grain. Just like do like a little soft thing here. How's that look at a decent distance? Honestly, wood maybe ought to be a tad smoother. Well, it doesn't look too gnarled, and it kind of follows the border, so it's not the worst. Could even do like a little bit of one in there. Really want it. I do think we need to trim down a little on this section. And we'll grab a little just to sort of emphasize occasionally some of the knots and bumps and such. That's fine. Yeah, that's not bad. Now I guess same deal for this, really. I'll make it much lighter. These, because they're somewhere between cloth and metal, we're gonna have pretty rigid reflections on them. Mainly because my inclination is to lean towards metal over cloth. Or get like a little bit on that one because it's on top. The physics of that don't entirely add up, but they add up well enough that it's believable, so I will live with it. Now, same sort of deal for the pickaxe head, of course. Slightly bigger line for this, of course. Like a little reflection there, but not anything too crazy because we don't want to imply that we can actually like see that side of it. We just want the reflection. And then I guess we wanted to multiply, we could get a little shadow on the underside of this too. Might be interesting. There, that should add a little more life to that. Given the angle of the tilt, we could probably have the light actually reflecting a little more up here too. Turn that off a little bit. Even have like the tip down here catching a little bit. Not too much, mind, but a little bit. I probably don't want to take it all the way up to that, or else it ends up making this look flatter than it already does. We'll just do like a little bit. Okay, nothing crazy, keeping that fairly simple. I do want to do a texture over this before we do the gold. And then the gold, I think, is not going to be multiply, it's just going to be a thing. So, we're going to add a new raster. We're going to clip it once again. I guess this ought to be multiply. I'm not really sure. I don't know that it matters with the brush. Boop-a-doop-a-doo, boop. We're using the actual brush. What we were doing was the rough wash. Not the wood actually, it was the wood texture. Yes. And then what we wanted color-wise was right. Our color palette's over here. Zoop. And I think we wanted this probably. Of course, downside is I think I got some of that on the pickaxe itself. So I'm gonna have to erase that, but that's okay. Honestly, what I really wanted is the stripes and not even like the edges of this particular wash. So I almost wonder. Oh right, no. What if we up the texture density? Maybe not that much or it's jarring, but we can also get rid of the watercolor edge. Guess I ought to be able to see the whole thing. And if I do this in the purple, is it going to show up? Actually, not badly. And actually sort of try to get like a little more. I do like, as pixely as that wood texture is, it really lives up to the name wood grain, doesn't it? But I do still think it's a good texture to throw in here. Let's see. Do. Whoops. Have a second. Sorry about that. I think this was the one I was. Nope, not that one. Sorry, I've got to fix something on my stream real quick. Okay. Well, coolio. Don't need this. Oh, good to know that I'm live. Awesome. Anyway, we will keep on keeping on and go from there. So I think, as I was saying, I'm not super sure about this particular wash, but I do like the texture it applies, and I'm wondering, can I get that on a different, like, would the wet wash be able to do that? And would swapping it totally break all of the wet wash? It's impasto right now. I think wood is honestly what we're looking for. It's so potent, though. Maybe if we do like a really light opacity. Oh, and we, get rid of the other one. Cleaning off our blade a little bit. That's fine. Okay, back to wet wash. And it just applies it vertically though. I kind of liked the angle we had going with the other one. Wonder if there's a way to change that. Oh, okay, good. There is a way to reset it when I botch it super thorough. Brush size, fraying effect. Nope, not that one. Let's see. Angle. Nope. Texture. Rotation angle. That sounds like what we're looking for. Yes. Not 360 though. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Just a real light. I'm sure there's an easier way to apply a texture than this. But I like what that's done with it. Not anything crazy. Subtle, but it's there. And then I need to clean off. Wait a second. Why is there texture across this whole thing? Or is that just my screen? I think that was just my screen. Or maybe not the screen itself, but lag from CSP not registering it. Anyway, it's fine, whatever it was. Honestly, it's not a bad texture for the pickaxe either, but it primarily not in the bluish purple that we've done it with. Good shadow color, don't get me wrong. And that's the way this color palette was designed, truthfully. So, actually, if we think about it, blade texture. Flats, I am gonna do kind of the medium to fill this section. Oh, and I suppose it's about time I got rid of these. They don't belong in the crystal blob. This, however, does. Oh, gonna have to get rid of the texture on this too. That's good to know. I do plan on keeping the line work around the crystals, so that's okay. Not line work, we need to clear that out. That one out. Then, of course, on the texture, we'll want... If I do a texture on this at all, it's definitely going to be different. So let's clean some of this out. Okay, if it leaves a little on the edges, that's fine. Nope, just curious. Do that. Okay, cool. And then if we go back to the flats, which I'm sure look fascinating on their own, but that's not exactly what we're doing today, even though it's what we do a lot. I realize that I can't just assume that it's going to be clipped to the layer below, because what I'm currently doing is the layer that becomes the layer below. I can't just go willy-nilly with my outlines just yet. Okay, there we go. We've got our flats. A little bit of texture lost around them, but that's fine, really. Okay, I mean, this is starting to actually come together and look like a thing. Out of curiosity, if we do just the flats and lose the line work... Actually, though... Okay. Only thing is really the crystals. The crystals, and then of course we're going to need to get the gold pattern on here for the actual prompt. Tell you what, let's see if we can get the crystals done in the next 20 minutes, and then I think the gold will actually be comparatively quick. Now, I can't promise I'll get the crystals done that fast, and some of them definitely look worse without the lines than others. Hoo, yeesh. But that is part of also why I did the crystal line work separate. It's sort of a fitting thing, really. Even if all the other stuff isn't lined, the crystals it might make some amount of sense for them to be. Well, we'll see. We will just see, won't we? Okay. Not on this layer. Crystalline work. Doopadoo. Looks like that's what we've been working with. Go ahead and save that just for good measure. And we will have to think about lighting a little bit when we do our texture. But we'll see. I do kind of like these fake fantasy crystals that are like jutting out at weird tapers, which, you know, there's probably some that actually do that. But I haven't seen them. I try to keep the more muted crystals in the center section. Get a little bit of a broken one going in there. I think it's pretty clear at this point that this sword has seen some use, so that would make a small amount of sense. Alright, I probably want to go back to a smaller vector for this. Oh, weird question. This isn't completely off tangent, by the way. Any of y'all, I mean, first off, has anyone read The Mysterious Benedict Society? Fun book series, but I saw they made a TV show out of it, which was surprising. Anyone know if that's any good? I got through like one episode. I haven't had a chance to get back to it. Looked like it was off to a fun start. But like, it's so hard to tell with those sometimes. Okay. Gonna have to get back to watching it sometime. It looked fun. Well, that one's weird. I dislike how cactus-like they end up looking sometimes. Just a little bit of our rough texture around them, although not too much, really. Okay, let's... Trying to keep them fresh and interesting and not looking just horribly repetitive. But I make no promises, really. Not only have I learned some things from this drawing already, but we've also learned something to look into next, i.e. making our own brushes. And so I think that it's already been a pretty successful project, and I'm quite happy with it. However, I still would like to get it done and be able to post it, because, you know, Swordtember is still a good bit of fun, even if it's easy to burn out if I'm not careful. I was worried, honestly, I was worried I'd burn out a lot sooner. I've done one of these monthly, like, month-long drawing things before, and, like, they can be a doozy. Like, you can have all the inspiration in the world on day, like, 6, but that doesn't mean that that's going to carry you to the end. that that's adding much. We may pull those later. We ought to have another big anchor cluster down here. Oh, I was on the straight line tool. That was so straight. Ah, if I do say so myself. Let's see. I want another one that's going at like a really weird conflicting angle. Throw a wrench into things. Actually, hold on. Let's go ahead and erase these first. Pull it out from there. Now we'll go back to our straight edge tool. Okay. A little more down here. Gotta have one that's a decent size down here. Ah, good. Breath of the Wild music. Always calming. I want at least one more of these little silly ones that's just like sort of stuck down in here. Thrown over. Okay, zooming out on this, that looks, oh, crystally. Add a little more down to this lower section here. Feels like I oughta. Like I said, humans are bad at like feigning randomness. And so it still feels like randomly there should be something here, even though randomly there may or may not be. Who knows? To make these longer, just because otherwise it ends up looking a little weird. Granted, that still looks weird. That looks better. It's still silly. And I'm not sure how it's pointing away from us. When it's emerging from the side of it that's towards us. Okay. Thoughts to think about perspective still. We're just playing fast and loose with the rules. Gotta get rid of any borders that are living inside of these. I reckon there's probably a few. And we'll go ahead and go on to our flats layer, do ourselves a bit of coloring in. We'll see how much we can get with the fill tool. Very little over the texture, I see. But we can still get these pretty well. That explains some things, actually. Oops. funny watching it try to escape over here, but there is no escape. Not with the texture. Okay, I'll try to just grab a decent size here. We'll try to keep our edges straight. We'll have to clear off some of the blue texture from on top of this. In fact, it might have been easier to do that first, so we could use the fill tool here. But no matter. Go ahead and clean these up real quick, get them going. Hard to tell what's because of the texture and what isn't. Ah, this one even caught some texture down here. Ah! Okay, we're talking about flats, and we're doing cleaning up. I oughta clean up the ones that the lines aren't getting. Gonna be a lot of that to do. Ba-doop-ba-doo. Hope I haven't just been sitting here in silence the whole time. I may have just sort of quieted out there. I just sort of now snapped back in and realizing that, wow, I've been lost in my thoughts for a minute. My bad, my bad. Sorry about that, y'all. But I am back. So what should we think about? What are we talking about today? I mean, there's something to be said about the quiet contemplation of just filling in lines, but there's also something to be said about the just nonstop talking that is Twitch entertainment. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. I will both watch plenty of Twitch and am on it, obviously. But yeah, like it does rather occasionally force one to just like there's nothing to talk about. I guess this is why a lot of people try to grab some friends and stream, and maybe I ought to do that sometime. See if I can't convince some of them to join into this. Some will be more amenable than others, I suspect. But I also, don't want to be taking advantage of them. It's like, like, hey, I'm bored on my stream. You all should go show yourselves in public, and have a conversation for a while. Like, that's a big ask. Ooh, wrong layer. Wrong color. Weird anti-aliasing. We'll have to use the brush to do a little bit of cleanups, but that's fine. Getting the tip there, zoopy-doopy-doo. On there. Once I erase texture, there's not really a way to bring it back, which is kind of an issue. Anything over there, I don't believe. Let's see, I need to get on the crystal line work layer and remove a little bit there and there. Now let's see. I do think that maybe I'd add a little something down here, but for the most part, the crystal work looks decent. But it needs some shading and contrast so it'll pop, because right now it does not pop. We'll go back to 3. This one almost pops too much. Sorry, lines. Let's think about shading. Shading. I guess when I did all those fills in a row to try to cause a little outspill, that's fine. We can fix that. Then we'll think about shading, and then we'll think about, the gold ore. The whole premise for this prompt, vein being the ore vein that we haven't even started on. Ah, well. Like I said, it's been a good learning opportunity regardless of whether or not we actually finish it. That said, be nice to. That should smooth in a little better now. Yeah, definitely. Okay. In terms of shading, I actually kind of like the hard shadows that we've got going on with the blade itself, along with a little bit of texture there. It's not the cleanest texture in the world, but it'll do. But for this, I think we're going to need a different sort of texturing. Let's look at the brushes and see what we got in terms of maps. Well, besides the fact that this is going to need some darker and some lighter on it, and either way, those shouldn't be in the flats. Those should be on a new crystal shade layer. This one is going to be multiply. Maybe it shouldn't be multiply. Maybe it should be normal. It's still pretty potent. And the highlights, surprisingly yellow looking. Because the flats are on like partial opacity. So like if I do the crystal shade above now, no, actually, that's interesting. Nice blending. Didn't know this brush was doing that. Guess it makes sense with wash. That's not really the right texture regardless, though. I do think the color's reasonable. But I just think we need to look at a texture that will work. Not going to be oil paint, but oil paint's actually closer than some. Let's take our oil paint and let's tweak it a little bit. Instead of canvas 02, what have we got? Drawing paper? No, drawing paper is marbles. Interesting, but again, it's not. Mermaid's got a weirdness to it. It's not really showing through either. Rough texture, maybe just rough texture. Feels like the texture's too pixely on some of these. Maybe that's the issue, is the density was too high. If it's too low, you get nothing. If it's too high, you just get this lovely little pixel rainstorm. Here, let's look at cotton and see how it does. Well, that's fascinating. But part of the issue here is these are way too, like, they're too big. The actual texture map is too big. Huh. It'll take a while before we unlock even one pixel with it like this. Okay. Okay. May not have exactly what we need for this to look good. Why do so many of these end up just looking like this? Even if I texture the whole thing, the mermaid look isn't coming through. We're just getting this weird pixel pattern. Maybe if we do like a... That's too small, of course. I guess it comes through on that. Not what we need, though. Definitely not. The tip I've seen online by, let's actually see who it was, because I've forgotten. It was just a Twitter post somewhere. Fief, I guess. I don't know their quality, but yeah, they're basically right. Little triangle highlights simulate geodes pretty well. So I'd love to have a brush that was just little triangle highlights. Once again, let's not try to make a brush in 7 minutes. That was 7 minutes. Crud, crud, crudzy crud. If we go back to our flats being at like 90%. Okay. There's room for improvement on this sword, definitely. But it is looking fairly cool. Maybe we leave the crystals alone for now. Let's find a real basic texture we can just sort of throw on there. I can do some shading on this and manage a little bit. Not that much though. So I gotta think some of that through a little bit. How do we want to do these? Certainly rough with the line work. I worry that it would be rougher without. But there's really only one way to find out, and we'll do that in a minute here, probably. Oh crud, I'm just doing this directly. Actually, I'm okay with doing this. Not directly on the flats. Goodbye, excellent pop crystals. We'll bring you back, don't worry. Just go crazy on the undos first. Crystal shade. It is normal, so it'll still be fine. So trying to think about these as if they're, actually hanging off the sword and looking at the sword's position relative to the light, where the light is clearly far above, and these are kind of, whoops, I need to think about that still. Nope, no, okay. More of these are going to be in shadow than initially seems, is all I'm saying. Pretty much all of these this one down here. I like the idea of them being in shadow, and then some of this is like in deep shadow back. Most like, there's probably one more tier in there. Nope, yeah. Just so dark. But I guess it should, shouldn't it? Really, I just need to seal these ones off, and then I can still use fill for the rest of it. We'll still have some light showing up on those. This one's going to be mostly in the dark. That's mostly dark. As we get up here and we're sort of bending towards the top, there's less bias towards the shadow. But there's still a fair bit of shadow. That one may be entirely lit. That'll have shadow. Shadow down there. That'll have shadow. Okay. And in the same boat, there's going to be highlights. I'm not sure this highlight actually works quite as well with these as I'd hoped. Like, it's got excellent contrast, it's just a little jarring. Really got to be only things that are proper facing the light. I don't think that one would. I think that might. Oh, that one would. Okay. I believe we'd at one point had a bit of a shadow on the lower part of this. Contrasting. High part. Okay. Well, that is certainly more, and if the crystals without their line work definitely pop better like this. Even though they end up looking a little painterly. I'm actually kind of okay with that. Like, sure, it's rough, but A, we're short on time, and B, it's not a bad look, really and truly. That said, it does make me think, do I have a triangle tool? Really have a triangle. Polyline, really oh wait, polygon 3 sides, right? Surely there's a side option. Figure, number of corners, 3. Oh, and I can adjust to have it fill. Let's just do some of these. Just angle after fixed, yes. Don't need any crazy aliasing here. They were right. This is an excellent trick. And I'm going to sort of lower the density of the light ones as we get further down. I'm going to try to have more of them facing downward if I can. But this tool's a little finicky to use still. Sure, it's great with experience. Oops, looks like we're right at 10 o'clock, even with my best efforts. Don't worry, we'll see this one to the end, and I don't think it's going to be crazy longer, to be honest. Decreasing density a little bit. Makes sense if there's one there. Makes sense if there's one there. Not going to worry about crystals casting shadows or not, necessarily. But I do want to make sure some of the positions of these make sense. Okay. Man, this is a great trick. I love this trick. Thank you. Oob? What was the name? Beef. Beef. Thank you, Beef. I have no idea. I can't, like, vouch for them or anything. I have no idea the quality of what they do, but that was a good tip. Otherwise, we're going to have a horn shadow. Maybe not in a stinking line, though. Could we chill? But yes, randomness can create a line, but I'm trying to work with the human brain, which doesn't like the idea that lines are random. Honestly, all those down there probably ought to be like an even deeper shadow than they are, but it's fine. We have a deadline. Perfectionism has to wait. We'll have a handful up there. This area ought to have more darks than light. Okay. There we go. Crystal's done. Oh, fine. I'm going to do one more thing on this. Little soft shade. It's going to be a multiply. A soft multiply, mind. So we'll probably simple like this. Grab my brush. And, actually, it shouldn't be that soft of a multiply, should it? I want to stay in the color scheme, it ought to be deep multiply. Well, if I want to stay in the color scheme, it shouldn't be multiply. We don't have infinite time. So, soft multiply it is. Bigger brush, maybe. We'll work out some of the details later. Okay. You know, I'd had some issues with the sliders on this earlier, and I forget, oh, what was the trick? I think I had to like literally redo the drivers on my tablet because I couldn't drag. Like the slider, I had to just click where I wanted it to go, and I never realized how much I've been using drag in that until I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, oh no. Let's see. This ought to be jarring, maybe, right? But more importantly, I think I need the eraser to make some jarring shapes with this one. Let's go. Probably not vector, sorry bud. We're gonna get the hard eraser, we're gonna get a fine point, get in here, really sharpen some of these triangles. Make it look like there's proper crystal form going over the edge there. Um, that, just faint hints of things. And we'll just kind of roughen up the rest of the edge to match what you'd expect. A sharper edge. Might have some chasms in there, but nothing crazy. There we go. There we go. Then flats. I'm just going to take a little bit of this while we've got our fine brush here. And just do a little bit of cleanup. Figure I'm not going to like follow along and try to fix everything, but if there's something that's bad enough that I notice it, just from even my zoomed out view, then I ought to go fix it. Good enough. Well, that actually, I mean, it's not necessarily what I was going for at the start, but it did turn out looking cooler than I expected. However, there is still one more piece yet to be done. Also, I've noticed we're just casually no more line work. I'm okay with this. Whoops. I didn't know that that would work that way. Cool, it just automatically nested, but not what we need. I'm gonna make a new folder. Throw all the line work in there. Okay. I'm gonna get us set up. What we wanted for the veins was, and I want these over top of this. Step 1, brush. Oh, I've messed up so many of my brushes, but that's fine, they have resets. Step 2, rough wash. Let's see. I have listed as, oh right, the mid-tone. Mid-gold, yes. Not mid-guard, but mid-gold. And the texture was impasto, and I'm gonna want to bring that back, methinks, not wood for this one. Still towards the bottom-ish. Of marble, yes. Yep, okay. And what we are going to do in just a few moments is we're going to go through and actually add some of the veins that are, the prompt for today's sword. However, first off, I do apologize. I'm going to have to run to the restroom real quick, and we will be back in just a moment. Howdys and salutations, y'all. We are back. I'm gonna go ahead and close our reference. I'll save it, and we will be putting that away. Boop. Now y'all can see the overview shot too. Looks a little bit like a sash, but that's fine. One final nitpick, just to make it look a little cleaner. Before we do the gold, and then I promise we'll do the gold because I've got a hard stop at 10:30. I should have a hard stop at 10:30 if I'm smart. But I think we have plenty of evidence to the contrary of that. Which layer is that on? Wow, I wouldn't have guessed flats. Yet somehow I did. Anyway, what I need is on the blade texture. I want to remove it from the shadow zones. I think it looks a little messy because normally if you were following like an actual slate pattern or anything, I'm okay with a little shadow overlay or whatever. But if you were following an actual slate pattern, like the pattern in the slate would not continue exactly the same. Like there'd be an angle and you'd see a different cross section of it. And so as is, that looks nasty. Not that people would probably notice, but I mean, they might, for all I know. Point B, a lot of the areas where the texture was wrong was along this dark edge next to the crystals anyway. This sort of helps clean that up too. Not the main motive, but a nice perk. Again, I'm okay with like a little shadow edge under there. Not a big shadow edge. How's this looking? That does make the shadow look too bold. Maybe I leave it just as a way to temper the shadow a little bit. Close enough to the blue, maybe it won't be super noticeable. Okay, we'll leave it. Because really, there should be a skip in it right over there, too. That's okay. Hopefully, like, this sword is so big that in the actual final post, it'll probably not be super noticeable. But it is a little bit. But that's fine. Main issue being, of course, that if I tried to do the blade shade, it would be with this color, and it's going to make everything look like the crystals. So we don't want to do that. And again, we don't really have the time to keep futzing with it, so we will have to just stop. Gold, I tell ya. Okay, back to our proper brush. Whoops, let not. Okay, I need to rearrange these in a way that makes sense to me. Like, I don't need the text tool here. Don't know why it was ever there, to be honest. That's just weird. Okay, we had rough wash impasto of a normal size. Maybe like a 12 or something. I have to actually sort of think about where the edge of that is going to be. And like, this is what I mean by the cross section. Like, the pattern's different when you're cutting down to different layers in a stone. I do think that so far this isn't a bad option as far as a sort of ore vein pattern goes. Like on the main, that's actually looking pretty cool too. But yeah, we'll I'm going with this. And this is part of where I can sort of play into these edges that we've implied. Oh, I guess I ought to lock this to the lower layers still. Lost a little of its shimmer, of its shine, but that's okay. Because one of the things that I want to do is make sure that like we're not just following a bunch of parallel lines, because that's not really how these things end up going. Always like weird cross sections and stuff with them. And sometimes there's really faint ones on the surface. Like Okay, you can just barely see that end up being like really thick somewhere else. Probably not at that edge necessarily, but like it's still pretty faint, and then like really big underneath, and connected to like this bigger one that's sort of running with it. Let's see, get some other stuff going on up here. One that like maybe turns around. They don't all like depending on the folds of the minerals. And I'll admit I don't remember exactly what tectonics would result in this sort of fold, and if it makes sense with any of the other ore distributions. But it is kind of a fun little balancing tangent for it. Have something fairly definitive ore down the edge there. Again, they're not all of uniform thickness. That edge is there, does make sense. See the entirety of the fold and have like a really wide section on the surface for a little bit before it like fades out. Gonna let that keep going. All this, and just sort of feeling it out, letting things land wherever they do. So realizing that I need to make sure stuff doesn't line up across the invisible edge there. These should help imply that ridge a lot more too, for the record. I'm actually kind of glad about that. Let's see. So looking at this, let's see. Not bad, not bad. Maybe we'll add a little bit more. All right, not connecting. Sometimes they just, I don't think it would just peter out, but I think it's more likely it would end up just curving around back to something. But again, not actually going to line up. So sort of careful with how I'm doing those. Another simple one over there. And have one that sort of goes right along the edge. That's fun. I think I want at least one crosswise one going over here too. Something interesting. That way it doesn't just look like a bunch of parallel-ish lines. There we go. Whole bunch of nonsense happening there. This feels like such a sharp turn. That maybe there'd be like a little more going off of it too. We can vary the density of these a little bit. Brightness going in there. Save. And then I believe what we were going to do for this other one was the light watercolor brush. Not that big though. Maybe not that small though. There we go. I feel like the density on this one has been changed. Can I reset it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, resetting this one. Still back to like a smallish density. Um, Lower the spray deviation. That help us keep it more to the center. Maybe up the particle density a little bit. Drop it to 15. Along some of these really light sections, add like a little more. Whole bunch around here. I felt like this was a better effect earlier. That's unfortunate. I wonder what I changed. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still adding a bit. It's an extra little shimmer to a few spots that really need it. And really helps tell the variance in density and such on this, that it's not just a uniform ore vein. I guess maybe the issue with some of those early ones, why it wasn't looking so great, is some of them were already pretty bold veins, and so they didn't need a whole lot of sprucing up there. But down here, we've definitely got somewhere. Adding a little bit more pep to it might be good. Not worrying too much about exactly where the particles are landing, just sort of letting it happen. Okay, this is actually, you know, coming together at at the last minute, mind, but it's coming together. Okay. Let's see. I guess if did I want to try to add a little bit of the darker one too, or is that going to temper things more than I intend? Maybe only at like the really dense ones for a little variance. Yeah, I won't do too much with that. A little bit of a jarring difference against the crystals, but I'm actually okay with it. Okay. Well, y'all, I think we done did it. Only 25-ish minutes overtime. May add a tiny bit of texture to the pickaxe, but like that's just gonna be little minor stuff, nothing of note. Um, I don't know. I could. It's just the highlight, and we can actually use the darker color, so it's not too bold of a highlight. But like a little bit of something, a little bit of a glint. Kind of an interesting something. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I don't want to get caught up trying to glint up the crystals. Actually, like a tiny bit on the ends might tell appearance a little bit. Also, maybe on the gold layer I shouldn't have some of the gold go straight over a crystal. Oops. Wonder how that happened. Okay, I think we're gonna call it there. This has been a wild one. This is a stinking wild weapon. Very silly. But I'm actually pretty happy with it, all things considered. But yeah, I think we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you all for coming out. It's been a blast. Thank you for anyone watching the VODs. Hope you enjoyed, or at least enjoyed the end result if you skipped here. I think that we're going to wrap it up for the night, because man, I need to get to bed. So, until next time, have a good one, y'all. See ya.